used to sit right close to him, and he pulled out a key out of his pocket, and he said, go up to my office, and in the second drawer or something, on the right-hand side of it, you'll find a piece of matzah shmura. He said, would you mind bringing it down? So, of course, Chadakov didn't mind. He got up to the Rebbe's office, he had the key, and he got in, and he brought this piece of matzah shmura down. And the Rebbe asked this person had he already washed his hands, and he said no. So the Rebbe said, sit over there, or go wash your hands, and polish off this piece of matzah, and he had a remarkable refuah. I don't remember if he had the operation or he didn't, but everything went in a way that nobody would have foreseen that it would go that way. No. And that happened with the Alter Rebbe and with the Middle Rebbe. Come out, all the Rebbeim, they healed people with matzah. Yeah. The Zohar says that it's Meikla Das Musa. So what sort of healing is it? That's what we're getting at. It heals you in a way that you become, your chometz is a Yiddish chometz. It's no longer something which is pulling you down, but from now on, if you just have a little bit of kavanah, then your eating will be a holy eating. It'll be a different sort of eating. That's what we have to believe. Be'emunah shleima, shezekah. And that's even the two nights, meikla de mehei manusa and meikla de asvusa. If you really believe be'emes lamitai, that you're eating something very rare and some amazing thing called matzah, then asvusa, it'll help you to heal the whole situation. And it'll help you to be ani Hashem refecha. Pesach Sheni, we're already halfway there. In a very significant way. We're really getting that. Chometz u'matzah imoy v'bayim. Yidden zot l'chaim, say l'chaim, and we're all holding very special. We really have to believe that it's kafir. Everything's different. That's not what it was. And if we believe the emes lamidi, that everything is different, then it'll be different. If it'll be different. That's why by the river there was nothing negative. You never heard anything negative from the river, only positive. Only good and positive statements. For what? Because by the river there was no chometz. Everything was matzah. Avamela came to Yelona. That's the way we have to be. We have to be b'simcha b'turavo, and we have to know that ani Hashem refercha. The Eber says your healer, and he's lechatchila. He's a preventative medicine doctor, big time. Ain't safe. Really big time. And it should all be v'simcha v'torah somewhere. And Derech Hagav, Ayin Beis also has to do with refuah. Ayin Beis is chesed. And it's the Shem Ayin Beis, but that's one of the big tzirufim, the Shem Avaya, that also got to do with very high on him, Shayohim LeRefuah. So, Baruch Hashem, we have a Shia every Monday night, and we learn Ayin Beis. Don't we? Baruch Hashem. And I know by me that's for sure a refuah. I always feel better after the Iron Bayshur. My wife says to me, listen, tell them tonight you're not giving the class. I said, well, maybe I will and maybe I won't. And so I live in a house now where I got upstairs. So I go upstairs and I hide, I get on the phone to Tzvi or something and I close the door, And it happens, the shiur happens. And then afterwards, I don't complain anymore, I mean, I don't complain, but my wife sort of notices that I'm a bit schwach, So anyway, everybody's invited to join the class, and we have it on Skype, but right now we don't have the Skype, but we have a very capable telephone expert called Tzvi Maranson and Shimon Lesov and those guys. And they take care of the telephone techniques, and we can get you in. It's no problem. L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Rabbi Gafni, how can someone participate in the shiur who hasn't got a computer in his house?
He wants to know, if you don't have a computer, how do you participate in the shiur?
All you need is a telephone. Do you have a cellular phone?
Yes.
Even an ordinary phone. And talk to Tzvi and he'll tell you how to get in. You just hook in. Nowadays with these telephones, anything is possible. No problem.
Is there any more in the salad?
Yeah, l'chaim, guys, l'chaim.
Gafni, say to Chatzidische haben kein Fehlen, wird das fast nicht herzlich fehlen. Natürlich, soll Mordechai Halevi ben Rivka take him to be released from jail.
Amen. L'chaim. L'chaim Daniel.
Mitzrayim
So from Tiferet Shebahoy, we move into Shabbos, and then we magia to the Inyan van Hoy Shebahoy. Well, that's the Inyan van Lag Boimer. And that's the Hilula, the Rashbi, was he do the whole diak, why is it called a hilula v'chulu? But that's the Indian of a simchas chasana. By hilula, in the Gemara means a chasana, a sudas chasana. What's the Indian, the Tavke, the Indian from Rashbi? He comes out Tavke Sfiras Haomer, Shepa Hoid. Because l'chayra, on one aspect of it, if we look at it, Hoid Shepa Hoid is pretty much like the finality of what you might call the Sfira. And as the Alter Rebbe brings in the Siddur, as a taka, because the Indian from Sfiras Haomer is a bira the midas, like we said before. And the Ika midas, mi chesed ad hoid, ki yadua. Because the Indian from Yesod and Malchus, they're already shot to Ashpur. They're not really the Indian from a midah per se. The Indian from hoid is a sof hamidas. Therefore, the Zohar Kodesh says that Bina ad hoid is pashtas. The whole Indian from Shoyra Shamidas is Moya Habina, that only gets as far as hoid. Now, what gives the koyach of the Indian from Yisod Malchus is really Chokma v'Keser. Ki Yadua and the Penimah said the Indian from Abba Yosef Brato, what Brato is the Indian from Malchus. The Bas, the Indian from Malchus, Abba Yosef Brato, this was from Chokma. But the Indian from Midas is hoid. What Lefise comes to is hoid, Sheba hoid, is like the completion. It's like the finish of a whole process. And the rest of it is really another Indian which changes slightly, but in Yoni, in the Bureau of Yesod V'Malchus, there's a different type of Indian. Of the Ike Bureau Hamidas is ad hoid sheba hoid. So, l'choira, hoid sheba hoid is like the etiquette sof, kolo Inyoni. And if we look carefully at how the Alter Rebbe in the famous drush in the Shah Lag Boima and the Siddur, but he's got two drushim over there, both long. The Alter Rebbe is masbir that in Avedas Ha'odom, the Inyan van Hoid is a very sort of poshet Mesiras Nefesh type thing. It's what you might call like admission or giving yourself away. In other words, the tafkir where you don't understand, then you say that you're moide, even though you might have really held something else, but you admit that the emes with the other person or the other shitta, will be what you don't really masik. What is the emes, lafise? But nonetheless, you say, hoid or moide. Hoid means that you're moide. Give yourself away. And a fila where there's a certain Indian of understanding, and you give away matzad seichel of the very Indian that you accept the other Indian lechalutin 100%, and you agree that the whole halacha or the whole hanoge should be lafi what the other shita holds. Well, that means that you give yourself away. A fila your seichel is moediket as Mesiras. But Abu became the etzem Indian is a Indian from Mesiras Nefesh. Pshitas hoidoa. And hoid sheba hoid means hoidoa sheba hoidoa. In other words, that you just give yourself away completely, but even that you don't really know what you're doing. You don't really appreciate it, but there's a cold pnima, how do you call it, inner voice, and that's a very important voice, albeit. It's like we spoke before about Riosa de Liba. Well, it tells you that you got to be makabel, and you have to give in. You have to understand that it's not like you think, but be'emes lamid is a kaf for kaf. Well, that's called Hoyit Shaboyit. And therefore, in davening, we have Moedim Anachnullah, and then we have what's called Moedim Derabonan. And so when you say the Moedim Derabonim, you say Moedim Al Shonu Moedim Loch, Anu Moedim Al Shonu Moedim Loch. Boru Kel Rai, I do it. As V'mel Anachnu Moedim Al Shonu Moedim is twice over Hoi. So the Alter Rebbe writes over there that that's even Hoid Shebahoid. And Hoid Shebahoid is L'chora, how do you call it? A tmimistic asotach, where the mensch gives himself away to something he doesn't really appreciate it, and he's not able to be massing really why he's doing that. Elamai desidinivan koil pnima the lo yishtama or yishtama a bit. And that's what we spoke about before, Ru'usa Deliver. It's a Pashat Indian Lachora. However, if we examine, the word Hoid has got different pirushim to it. If you examine another pshat in the word, or pirush in the word Hoid, then you get a different sort of picture. And Hoid means splendor. And not only does it mean splendor, but it means a very elevated level in splendor. And therefore we say to the Avishta, Huid v'hodo levashta. Huid v'hodo levashta. And then we say that there's a inyan in reference to a king, in reference to a melech, there's what we call a hadar. HaMelech, inyan from the hodo, hadar malchusei, and then there's what we call Huid melech. Huid melech. And when you say Huid melech, you mean the splendor of the melech. So what do you mean by the splendor of the melech? So the Bia Bekitza Nimrod is that when you say Hodor, you also mean greatness in the form of splendor, but that's how he relates to the whole kingdom and how his greatness is being nimshach to rule over the country. So he's got to have a certain inborn greatness in order to do that. Otherwise he's going to butch it, to use the expression. But he does a very capable job of running the country, and that's called Hadar Malchus. The more capable it is, the more Hadar in the uniform of a Huid Melech is the very essence splendor of the Melech Bifnei Atzmo. And so why does he become a Melech? Because he be'etzem is a very, very elevated person. As Ebrotan says. That's why people coronate him and make him their leader, because they know and they sense that he is be'etzem hamel. You follow? In other words, you got two madrigas. You got how he's be'etzem hamel, and you got how he's a melech in the way that he runs the Medina. And that's the two levels of a hod of a hoid. Of a nimtzah at the level of hoid, in the very essence of the melech be'etzem atzmusei, eikshuhu. And that's a splendor in the king, but it's brought down that if at certain times he's not revealing himself to the whole, public, and he sits b'fnei atzmoi, so then it's written that it goes off from him like a tremendous type of light. How do you call it? If you were around, you would see that. By Moshe Rabbeinu, he got it, and that's called Karnei Hoi. And Moshe Rabbeinu had that in such a way that everybody could notice it. And therefore he had to cover it up, and he had to all sorts of he didn't want too many people, being enemies there, with the ganze arihas. Oh, it's a very special splendor, tremendous inner, how do you call it, essentially illuminated state in the king, all on his own. And that's his greatness. Be'etzem atzmusei, beli reference and beli yachas to all the kingdom and to all the people. All the people, that's Hadar Malchus, and that's also great. Over here he is be'etzem atzmusei. Avamera dosa hoid melech. And in Iron Base, we had a few months ago, we had a whole piece about Hoid Melech. I don't know if the guys remember it, but that's what happened. We had a whole business about Hoid Melech, and it's a very, very high and amazing madrega. And therefore there's something about a king, you know, when he starts moving, Emerson king we're talking, he starts moving into the Medina, people, you know, even without actually seeing him intimately, but they're affected by this Hoid. It has like a tremendously drawing power on the public. And that's called Hoid Melech. And it's a tremendously essential and pneumistic azach. So, Lafi Zekunta is that the word Hoid is at the other end of the how do you call it, the extremity, a tremendously high thing. Hoid in the first shot is a very sort of simple admittance, Kabbalah, and taking on yourself. And here, you know, so ask yourself the question, you know, why should it be like that? What is Hoid Shabahoid? You make up your mind, either it's that, or maybe something in the middle. What is it? You know, what is even Hoid Shabahoid? So we have to say that Zeh Mevir Lidei Zeh, and Zeh V'Zeh Shnehem Miskaimim B'Yodein, Pirush Ador. If you're prepared for Hoid Shabahoid, in the simple way, that you're prepared to give in, even though you don't understand 100%, and even though your cycle is not masi, but nonetheless you give yourself away and you say, listen, man, here I am, Al Sha'onu Meidim Lach Hoid Shabahoid, I give myself away absolutely, and I'm prepared to do it your way. I mean, referring to the Eibishter or to the Rebbe. I'm prepared to do it your way, and that's it. So if you're like that, and you can be poiling yourself and your life, and your way of doing things, and your way of being Mekayim a mitzvah and doing alles gute so Sachen, that you're mamish in a state of Hoid, in that simple way, then you